I'm going to have to go back a little further than just Monte Vista. So maybe you guys just show the video.
Oh, that's tough.
It's crazy. Jimmy's parents both passed away in the last few years, and when they were going through stuff, they found that home movie. It's just random that I happened to be the kid on first base. Jimmy and I, we knew each other growing up. We were not, the best of friends when we were 9 years old. Jimmy was the best player in our little league, he had a birthday in the fall, so he actually was we were in the same grade. But when I was a 12-year-old, he was an 11-year-old, and he was the best player when he was an 11-year-old. And then he got to come back and just kick the shit out of people the following year. we were never on the same team. Jimmy was always on really, really good teams, and I was always on really, really shitty teams. And the reason for that in math, we call this a direct correlation. It's reality. We also played a lot of basketball together and against each other at the Outlet Gardens Rec Center. And he was every bit as good of a basketball player as he was a baseball player. And that was my relationship with Jimmy. We didn't have video games. We just played sports against each other. And everybody knew Jimmy because he was really good, and everybody knew me because I talked a lot. In high school, we ended up going for the first time. We never went to school together, and then we went in ninth grade. We both ended up at the old Uni High. And freshman basketball tryouts. So I go into the gymnasium for freshman basketball tryouts, and there's like 100 kids trying out for the team. And I'm like, oh shit. So my brain starts going into overdrive. And I see Jimmy, this is a true story. And I go up to Jim, and I go, hey, Jim, with all these kids, I'll bet you the coach is he's gonna pair us up and have us do drills as partners. Would you like to be my partner? And Jim's like, oh yeah, Jeff, thank you so much. Thinking I'm just the greatest guy. There was not an ounce of kindness in that gesture. It was among the most self-serving things I've ever done in my entire life. I knew that the coach was going to notice Jimmy, and I was just hoping to ride his wake and make the team. And it worked, I did. And we actually played basketball together for 4 years, and I spent a lot of time telling Jimmy how great he was doing. He also played baseball in high school. He won a CIF championship his junior year on a really good team. He was an all-league basketball player, an all-league baseball player. He was the most valuable player of both teams our senior year. Jimmy Carroll was a really, really, really good high school athlete, and it's because he made himself one. He wasn't born with... the old adage that, hard work beats talent, and Jimmy definitely... did that. After high school, he went up, I'm going to tell this story, I hope it doesn't bother him. He went up to UC Davis, and he tried to walk on the basketball team, and he damn near made it. He got cut, the very last cut. And I tell the story to tell you that's how good he was. He almost made the UC Davis basketball team. When that didn't go as he hoped, he ended up coming back home. He went to San Diego State. He was studying business. He was going to go kind of follow his father's footsteps and make a bunch of money. That's kind of what was going. He was going to school, and our high school basketball coach, Coach Peck, had gotten the job over at Monte Vista. And so Jimmy started helping him as he was going to college. So he was going to get his undergrad degree. He was helping Coach Peck over at Monte Vista, and he kind of was a nice pairing as he worked, kind of went through college. He graduated from college and went out in the real world and started making real money in the 80s, and things were going fairly well. A lot of people making money in the 80s. At the same time, I came home from UC Santa Barbara, and I had studied math, and I went back, and I saw our coach, and went by his house and told him that I was back home and I was going to be going to school to get my teaching credential. And he asked me, hey, he said, do you want to help me with basketball? Because he lost Jimmy. Because I lost Jimmy, he's actually, became a grown-up and is out making money in the world. So Jimmy tapped out and I tapped in. And so I was student teaching at Monte Vista, and I was coaching basketball, and Jimmy was kind of still around for a year or so. And he decided, you know what, I think I want to go back. I think I want to go be a teacher. I think I want to coach. I'm making all this money. But he made a decision to go back. And it was obviously among the best decisions he ever made in his life. So he came, went to get his credential. He started helping. He ended up becoming the freshman basketball coach at Monte Vista. So we're back together. The game's back together. I'm coaching the JV, and he's coaching the freshmen. He finished his student teaching, and then at Monte Vista, they had their girls' varsity job opened up, and that was his first teaching job. So he took a teaching job at Monte Vista. He was the girls' varsity basketball coach. He won a couple league titles, right? I remember he had a couple good teams, and then he had some really bad teams. Yeah. And he was teaching at Monte Vista, and he did that till I believe it was around 2000. And then Steel Canyon opened, and he was hired to be the first basketball coach at Steel Canyon High School. So he left Monte Vista and went to Steel Canyon. Got over there and just decided, for whatever reason, this is this period of time where Jimmy kind of goes through this little funk zone. I don't know what to call it. But so he goes to Steel, decides he doesn't like Steel, ends up going back to Monte Vista. Well, he gets back to Monte Vista, and sometimes you go somewhere and you come back and it's never the same. So he decided that Monte Vista isn't the same, so he goes back to Steel. Okay, well, that obviously it was still not there. And at this point, he's trying to figure out. He's looking for something. He doesn't really know what he's looking for. He and Kathy got married in 2000, and I tend to believe, and she'd tell you that what he was looking for is what she had. And she's a helix, and he's not, and he's too stubborn. His lifelong friend is head of the math department, but he's not going to apply for a job. So he is bouncing around. He ended up going to Cathedral Catholic. So he was teaching at Cathedral Catholic. So he's all over the map, and then luck would have it, and late, like a couple days before school is supposed to start, Cheryl Tyler does what she likes to do and lets me know she's going to be leaving because she's taking a job at the county office. So we need a math teacher. We need one like pronto. So I reached out to Jim and said, hey, if there's any chance, we got an opening and it starts like tomorrow. Are you interested? And I think that was the difference. Now the pressure was on. He didn't have to apply for a job. He didn't have time to think about it. It was, I need to know right now. The job is yours. Do you want it? And he took it. And that was the best thing that ever happened for our relationship and for Helix and for many, many reasons. And so that was 2006, and Jimmy, he came on board here at Helix, and I think professionally he would, obviously, it's never been happier. You heard the math department, they call him BBJ, and that's for his dance moves. I think that started, what was the year we did this party? Like in downtown San Diego at that bar, remember that? And we all just got shit-faced. Like, if there were cell phones back then, our charter would have been revoked, right?
Woo! Bring it back.
That was unbelievable, and he was up there spinning the tunes as the disc jockey. And BB, that's Big Booty Jimmy. That's what BB did. The other nickname they have for him is right when text messages first started coming out. One of the teachers, I think Tyler or somebody put together like a text with all of our names and numbers, and so you could text each other. Of course, Jimmy doesn't store anything in his phone or anything. So these texts are going around, and he's just getting these random numbers and it's not going to make any sense. So finally, he gets fed up and he replies and he says, hello, this is Jim from La Mesa. Will you please stop texting? So at that point, we began to call him Jim from La Mesa. He's been a great teacher, and I don't want to make light of that. He puts more time and thought into his lessons than I think many people do. Some of us, myself, have a tendency to kind of want to roll out that same old lesson every year, especially when you've been at it for a while. And he doesn't do that, especially with his statistics classes, which he's taught a lot of stats. He's always looking for current things going on to make the material relevant today. Because what's interesting for kids today, a year from now, they might not care about at all. And I think that as I watch him do that, it always amazed me. Year after year, he'd be pulling things in. The last story I have to tell, and this is why I still don't know how he never got fired for this one. He's been doing this forever, and I told him, well, Jimmy, it's one of those things you just keep doing it until we get in trouble, and then you say you're sorry, you say you're never going to do it again, and then we'll move on. But what he does, only with the seniors, is when he gives the first test to his seniors, on the day that he's supposed to pass the test back, he goes up and he says, okay, before I pass the test back, I need everybody to go outside. So the kids all go outside, they're outside, and then he stands by the door and he says, okay, when I call your name, it means you got an A on the test and you can go pick any seat you want to sit in. And those kids go in the room. And then he says, okay, now, those of you that got a B, here he calls their names, you can go in. C, you go in. And on the leftovers, the ones that didn't pass the test, he says, you may be offended, but this is how life works. There's a seat in the room for you. I promise, there's a seat. It's probably not the seat you want, but there's a seat for you. And guess what? That's the way the real world is. There's going to be a job for you, but it's probably not going to be the job you want, because the job you want is going to be taken by the kids that are getting the A's and B's on the test. And the fact that no parent or kid ever called the school to complain about that, to me, but I think, to me, it speaks that it resonated with them, right? Like, if it bothered them, they would have bitched. And they sat there and they took their lumps and said, you know what, he's got a point there. And, like I said, we were always prepared. Maybe this will be the year. And then it never happened. And of course, I would have told Kevin, I don't know what the hell, I never heard anything about this. So, anyhow, I should stop. Jimmy is leaving me. If anything I've learned over the last 50 years, it's that our paths are going to cross again. And I look forward to it. Congratulations to Jimmy Carroll and the family.
So this right here was what happened on first base in Little League. I was sitting there on first base, kind of doing my job, and Jeff's chewing my ear off, trying to distract me, I think. I won't be long, but I do want to recognize some things before I do go away. First of all, I do want to thank you, Jeff, for 50 years of friendship and being there for me and listening and providing levity in my life and being a good role model. I mean, I actually idolize what you've done, and your ability to work with people and your math abilities has been something I've tried to aspire to, so you've been an inspiration for me, so thank you. So the other person I want to recognize is somebody that I ran into inadvertently when we were first hired in the district. Back in the old days in the Grossmont district, when you got hired, you had to go to what was called I'm going to back up for a second. When I was at Monte Vista coaching and trying to get in the teaching game, and Zach Peck, our mentor, said, you got to get a teaching job first, the coaching will come second. So don't worry about coaching here, get a teaching job. So there was a job opening at Helix in 1991 that I applied for, and I did not get the job. So I was all bummed out. Oh, what am I going to do? So I was able to get a partial contract back at Monte Vista, and the person that I lost out to the job at Helix for the math job was a person named Kathy Singer. Now back to where I started at. The program that we had to go through as beginning teachers, kind of like a pre-BITSA program. It's called Quality Teaching. And you meet at the Grossmont District a few times a year to have Ann Tolstoy, an old teacher with knowledge, to help us young teachers become hopefully better and more comfortable. And I'm in there, and I'm from Monte Vista with my Monte Vista new teachers, and in walks this this attractive hottie from Helix. And I'm like, I want to meet that person. And so I tried to finagle my way around to get noticed, and it didn't quite happen in the quality teaching environment, but in a math conference in Palm Springs that us nerds went to, I saw her again. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna approach her and say, we get back to San Diego, can we try to go out, hook up, whatever? And so we were teaching a class called Math A. And so there was a meeting at the El Cajon High School adult area where we go again get taught by people to teach Math A. And so I was there, and she was there also from Helix, and I was in awe of her ability to look super organized, because I was a clueless teacher. I was like lost. And so I had the huevos one afternoon to send an interdistrict mail invitation to all the Math A teachers to meet for happy hour at El Chorrito. And I sent an interdistrict invitation to Miss Singer. And she shows up and she's like, where's everybody else? And I said, it's just us. And she stayed. And so I was like, oh, okay, there's a chance here. We dated, and I got to meet Helix High School through her in up close and personal with the prog parties, the Doug Smith parties, and just see the chemistry and the energy and the enthusiasm that Helix had. At Monte Vista, there were pockets of it, but it wasn't school-wide like I was sensing. I'm like, this school just is kicking ass. I mean, this is something special. And I had my little midlife crisis where I skipped schools around for a while, and then the opportunity came up that Jeff talked about, and I'm like, hell yes, I want to go to the school and put us on the same calendar to have our vacations and with Kathy and I. And I just was really impressed with how this school functioned. And it was, I felt so privileged and to be able to come here and be a part of this tradition at Helix High School. When we were early on in the quest to have kids all pass Algebra 2, we were still having math classes term long. And when Doug Smith said, we're going to have all kids from Helix graduates are going to pass Algebra 2, we're like, what the F are you thinking? What are you talking about? And so we were able to negotiate year-long Algebra 1 through that first venture to make it happen. I remember I was the first CLT for the Algebra 1 year-long, and I got up in front of the staff in the 1300 building and I said, if you don't see our test scores rise dramatically, all our math teachers should be fired. And my coworkers were like, why'd you say that? I said, it's true. I said, if we have the time to teach the material, we're going to see results greatly improve from the term long results we had. And so that was my only year at CLT till so I think Kathy Singer took over for me after that. But I've had a 32-year total career, but 17 here at Helix, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. I hope whoever comes on from my position will continue to make the math department grow and be one of the forthright programs in the area. I hope everybody realizes that this is a special place and cherish it. It's a lot of good people, makes the environment so much happier to work with, and I appreciate my time here. But it's time to turn the page and have a person hired that's going to be a little younger and maybe a little more energetic towards the advancement of our department. One last thing, and then I'll shut it down. I was cleaning out my desk because Joel Hall was going to take over my room, and another indicator that was there that said, you better get your ass out of here, was in one of the drawers. I looked in it, I had 2 VHS tapes. One was Stand and Deliver, The other was Lean on Me. I had a CD, Remember the Titans. It was the VHS tape said, "You're pretty effing old." So, it's time to move on, and Kathy and I have a lifestyle that's been able to have me retire a few years early financially, so I'll probably still come back and watch some sports and be a part of Helix. I live in La Mesa. We live in Mesa, so
Jim from La Mesa.
We'll be around. But, I thank our department, everybody that I worked with. I've been honored to work with you. It's been a pleasure. So there's great people up there. So I hope Mr. Childers will continue our strong math tradition at Helix. So thank you, everybody.